Now live streaming, thank you. Welcome elected members, staff, guests and members of the public to the Ordinary Council meeting of the 15th of May 2024. I now open this meeting at 12 minutes past 6. The City of Busselton acknowledge the Wadandi and Bibbulmun people as the traditional custodians of this region and pay respects to the elders past and present. This meeting, as I just noted, is being audio recorded for minute-taking purposes and is also being live streamed on the City of Busselton YouTube channel. The prayer this evening will be read by Reverend Alex Haig from the Free Reformed Church of Busselton. Thank you. Reverend, if you'd like to take a seat, we'll get the microphone on for you.
Good evening, Your Honour, Mayor Phil Cronin and all present at this meeting. It is my privilege to lead you in prayer and ask God's blessing on this meeting. Let us pray. God in heaven, on this beautiful, warm autumn day here in the southwest, we bow our heads in honour of you. We acknowledge your almighty power and generous love. God, we are grateful to all who could make their way to attend this meeting, especially those who serve our city in leadership roles. And we acknowledge the importance of their dedication and pray that you use it to encourage them and us. Please provide the council and committees with the best insight needed to approach each matter and situation as best as possible. Give them wisdom on how to represent everyone in our community best. And may our city's residents always encourage our mayor and his team. Please keep their families safe and well also in this hour. God in heaven, I ask you now, please give this meeting what it needs to complete the presented agenda. And may your blessing rest on their decisions this afternoon. Pray that you will consolidate different opinions while we recognize and respect the various views contributing to the discussions. We ask, Lord, guide each participant through your Holy Spirit in addressing this meeting with respect and integrity. And may the outcomes serve our city and our local shire well. And God, when we leave this meeting later tonight, we ask for your protection and care, and may we return to our homes with grateful and satisfied hearts. I ask all this in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Axel. Some great words. We do understand if you wish to leave, you can go, or you can stay for the next 3 hours while we're still here. So, thank you very much for your words. In attendance, we have all elected members, all 9 of us. I have no apologies, no approved leave of absence, no applications for leave. No one wants to go yet? Okay. I was going to be putting forward a motion today on illegal camping. Illegal camping is an issue that our community has consistently raised. This is my announcement. Raised with the council during the past 6 months as a matter of significant concern and impact. This is not an issue that we face in isolation. How the city responds directly impacts our neighbouring local governments and other land managers. Since March, the city has been engaging with other local governments within the Capes district, along with key industry representatives and state agencies, to understand the differing concerns, perspectives and impacts across the region and the relation to illegal camping. I am pleased to announce, as a result of discussions with the Shire President of the Augusta Margaret River Shire, that the city will be joining a regional project team to establish a Capes district response to management of illegal camping. This team will be collaborating throughout the next 6 months to jointly establish a regional strategy and formalise and communicates agreed objectives and initiatives that can be implemented across the region to support combating illegal camping. Thank you. I have not received any disclosures of interest. We move on to confirmation of and receipt of the minutes. Item 5.1, that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 17th of April 2024 be confirmed as true and correct record. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Ryan, seconded Councillor Richards. Is there any opposition? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you. Item 5.2, that the minutes of the special council meeting held on the 24th of April 2024 can be confirmed as a true and correct record. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Ryan, secondly Councillor Richards. Is there any opposition? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour? The motion is carried 9-0. Item 5.3, that the minutes of the special electors meeting held on the 24th of April 2024 be confirmed as true and correct record. Do I have a move? Councillor Ryan, seconded Councillor Cagg. Got in there quick. Is there any opposition? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried 9-0. I now move on to questions. Time from the public. Firstly, the responses to previous questions taken on notice. We have one question from Mariah Goria. That is put in front of you. And the response. Item 6.2 is question time for the public. We now move on to the members of the public have the opportunity to ask a question of the council about any matters relevant to the city. Public question time is not an opportunity to make statements or to enter into discussion or debate on the question or the responses provided. If you'd like to discuss an issue with councillors or make a presentation at any time on the agenda as opposed to asking questions, I would encourage you to attend the community access session and the public agenda presentation session on the first and second Wednesdays of the month. Questions will be limited to 3 questions per person to ensure that the public has the time to all speak, and I will not permit breaking questions into subparts. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind everyone the city's behaviour procedures. I think we all know those now. And if you believe that anyone's in breach of the behaviours protocols, I will initially first warn them. But anyway, we've said this before. Thank you for those who have registered tonight, and I've received 2 registrations. Firstly, Mr. Vern Bussell, if you would like to come forward and ask your 2 questions, I believe. Thank you, Vern.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councillors and staff and everyone else present. My name is Vern Bussell and I'm a farmer in the Witcher Range south of Busselton. I have 2 questions to ask this evening regarding item 11.4 on tonight's agenda about Lewin Civil's gravel extraction operations on my neighbour Brian Baker's Nutman Road property. Now, my family and I support gravel extraction and cartage in the city of Busselton. Our concerns relate specifically to compliance breaches with the agreed rules of operation for the above extraction site by Lewin Civil and their numerous additional haulage subcontractors. Now, my first question, Mr. Mayor, is can council staff please advise me and others concerned how they came up with their stated views in tonight's agenda item 11.4 notes that dust suppression by Lewin Civil on the unsealed section of their Nutman Road transport corridor has been appropriately and effectively carried out, when my own daily observations show that with very few exceptions, this is clearly not the case.
Thank you for the question. Through the CEO.
I might refer this one to Mr. Barber to consider that one. That's all right.
Apologies, Mayor, I haven't seen these before the meeting, so I'm doing it on the fly. My understanding is there is a dust management plan in place, and if we're advised that it's not being adhered to, we will look into that and take appropriate action if that's warranted.
Okay. Thank you. Your second question?
Yes, well, I believe it has been noted to the council and no action so far been taken. But I'll move on to my second question, please. Since I understand, Mr. Mayor and councillors, that City of Busselton staff have issued dozens of breach notices to Lewin Civil over their failure to comply with the agreed rules of operation for their Nutman Road extraction business, and because it is quite obvious that these notices have apparently not worked, I therefore ask if council could please implement more effective compliance measures such as fines or enforced stoppages to help their staff bring about more acceptable outcomes where such breach notices have been ignored.
Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Once again, I'll hand it over to Mr Barber. Thank you.
Through Mr Mayor. There's been, Mr Busselton is correct, there has been a number of notices issued. I don't believe that any of the notices that have been issued have then subsequently been breached. So for each issue that has been raised, if a notice has been issued, I don't believe that there's been a repeat of it. If there was, then the city then has to consider what action to take, and I think I outlined at the last meeting the options are to issue another notice or to do prosecution. In order to undertake prosecution, we have to have enough evidence to warrant, to be confident that the prosecution would be successful, and we would certainly go down that path if we felt that we had sufficient information to do that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen the notices that went out for the breaching, but I am 100% sure those breach notices have been further breached.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, we have Mr. Craig Sissel. Question on the bushfire notice. Or did he cancel? Is Craig here? No, I think we were sending Mr. Sissel an answer, and I believe he's probably happy with that. Next person, Miss Mariah Goria, in regards to the extractive industry DA 17 086601 Upman Road. Good evening, Maria.
How are you today?
I'm good.
That's good.
Thank you.
I hope everyone's good too. So I have 3 questions. How will the city ensure compliance with school bus times if the times are not written on the DA?
Should we answer? Yep, we'll answer individually.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I'll refer to Mr Barber again on this one.
Through Mr Mayor. The stipulation of specific time in the original approval is what led to the conflict previously due to the school bus hours change. The proposed condition still requires the city to approve any proposed times on a term-by-term basis, and once approved, it effectively forms part of the DA condition.
Number 2. City trackers picked up 74 truck movements when doing traffic monitoring earlier in the year in regards to this amendment for the DA. How will the city ensure that if granted approval for 70 trucks, that they won't actually operate 100?
May I go back to Director Barber?
Through Mr Mayor. Section 214 notices were issued in April 2024 for breach of movements and excess numbers. In response, we are aware that Lewin Civil has sent emails to all staff and all contractors purchasing their gravel to provide clarity on the approved routes. The city has continued to monitor volumes of movements since this date. We have cameras in place out there and we will continue to monitor it.
Thank you. Mr. Barber.
Last one. Does the city know where the remaining gravel, 35,000 cubic metres, will be extracted from? And what are the rehabilitation plans for the remaining area of the DA?
Mr. Barber. Director Barber.
Through Mr Mayor. Yes, in terms of the extraction based on the submitted surveys, we do know where that will come from. There is an approved rehabilitation plan that will need to be followed, including a clearing offset planting area outside the gravel extraction area. The city is expecting that planting in these areas that hasn't already been seeded will occur over the next 6 months during the wetter periods.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mariah, for your questions. Next, we have Mr. Fabrizio Goria. So, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, ask 3 questions. My first question is in regards to the same gravel pit business, the DA 17/0866. Can the city please advise if there is an extractive industry license or just a DA for this company?
Sure. I'll push that to Director Barber.
Through Mr Mayor. There's only a DA, so the city doesn't have a local law relating to extractive industry, so we don't have the ability to issue a licence.
Okay. So what is my understanding that after they are given a DA license, then they will have to obtain an extractive industry license? No?
No,
Okay.
not in the city of Busselton.
Okay. My second question was in regard to that. If they had a license, we would like a copy, but they don't have it. So does the city know if the site has been registered with the Department of Energy, Mines and Industry Regulation and Safety, in DMIRS? Of course, everybody knows that. In regards to work and safety regulations?
Through Mr Mayor, I'm not aware because I'm not sure that would come to us. And I'm not sure what you're referring to with registration, sorry.
Apparently, they need to be registered with the Department of Energy, Mines and Industry Regulation and Safety for their work and safety regulations.
Through Mr Mayor, it's not something that the city controls, so I don't know if they have or haven't. That would be up to them to deal with DMIRS directly.
Okay.
Thank you for your questions. Appreciate that. Are there any further questions from the public? Michelle, would you like to come forward? State your name and where you're from.
Yes, you are. Thank you for the opportunity to present or to ask my questions. My name is Michelle Shackleton. I live in Abbey. My questions relate to the saltwater build. The first question is the approval of the City Council required for all unspent expenditure from the saltwater project's contingency budget, and what mechanisms are in place to ensure proper oversight and accountability in managing these funds?
Ms. Sear?
Yeah, so I'll start with the mechanisms if I could. Thanks, Mr Shackleton. So obviously we have project managers and a team involved in managing the contract. So obviously have a contractor involved in the construction of the saltwater as well. So around that includes a range of professionals to ensure that things are kept within the parameters, and then that comes back onto budget as well and then reports back to council. I imagine there will be further reports back to council around where things are sitting at the time and in relation to the contract as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, just to clarify, the contractors that you're talking about are Broads or your own?
Broad, sorry. Yeah.
Broads.
Yeah, and then the professionals, we do have some other professionals engaged from other companies that are on our project management team.
Yep.
As well as staff.
Okay, thank you. In the context of a fixed price contract, why was a contingency budget established for the saltwater project? And if unexpected expenditures have arisen, who bears responsibility for necessitating these additional costs? And what steps are being taken to address any budgetary discrepancies and prevent similar issues in the future?
I think the steps involved would also include that team that I mentioned as well. The reason for the fixed price contract and also adding in a contingency is that's quite a common need in construction contracts. So if there's amendments that have to occur because of something's come up, and I think we had one example of some unexpected stormwater issues that we needed to deal with. Mr Darby might be able to help here at some stage. That might need some amendments. That's not something that the contractor could have foreseen. So we would have to have a look at that contingency budget to handle those sorts of issues.
Wouldn't that go to insurance though?
No.
No? Okay. When can the public expect to be given a definite date for completion and comprehensive disclosure of the overall finances of the saltwater project, including a breakdown of all expenditures, potential penalties for completion delays, and any ongoing budgetary reviews? What measures are in place to ensure transparent communications in the future?
Sorry, can I get the first
Do it again?
part?
Yeah, you split a fourth question in there.
Well, it's what have we got now, and then what have we got in the future? Because it's the public are the community is not 100% confident that we've seen everything and we know exactly what's going on
Okay.
and when.
Yep.
So when can the public expect to be given a definite date for completion? and a comprehensive disclosure of the overall finances is probably a shortened version of that.
All right, thanks for the question. So look, the council's due to get another report on an update on the project moving forward. So once they've seen that first, that's when we can actually move forward with pushing some information out to the community as well. Date for completion, I'd need to check. It's depending on where things are at. Obviously, we can see that it's probably not where it's at where we'd hoped it to be, and rain's falling this week, so we would need to get back. That would be part of that report to council first, and then back to the community as well. So that's can't give a definite time, but soon.
Looks more like next year than this year, though, doesn't it?
Sorry, for completion.
For completion.
Look, I couldn't say, but certainly a report to the community definitely before this end of the year. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
You very much.
Appreciate it, Michelle. Are there any further questions? Stuart, if you'd like to.
Stuart Anderson, ratepayer, citizen of Busselton. Just a couple of quick questions on the river. The tender process for the dredging for Section 3 finished on the 8th of May. Can I find out who the dredging contractor has got the contract?
Ms Director Darby?
The tender has been extended to the 22nd of May, so it hasn't closed. We had requests for extensions of time.
So we don't have a contractor yet. If we do get a contractor, can I ask a question? How will the dredging be done? Will it be by extraction, or will it be sucked out and...
I believe that was part of the tender process, was for someone to decide how it was going to be done. So, yeah.
Subject to the tenders that we receive and the evaluations.
Yeah. So.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mr Anderson. Any further questions? Ms Dealing? Is this part of your presentation or your question?
This is a question, and
Okay.
I, to my dismay, that I had registered for this meeting and no one's recognised that. And I have my answer at home from a person by the name of Joe.
Sorry, is this...
A
sorry,
lady, I prevent.
Sorry, just wanted to be clear. Is this... You didn't get answered about the question because you are talking?
No, I'm saying that I had registered for this and you haven't referred to me as being allowed to come up here to the chair, and actually you referred to me, are there any more questions?
Sorry,
there were questions.
I'm going to...
And
all right,
I
Terry,
had registered
I'm not going to interrupt
for tonight.
you, but you do... You're on my list. You will
Well, I
be
wasn't
speaking...
called.
No, because you are speaking as presentations with a party with an interest. That's next.
Well, I'm here.
Well, this is you presenting, or you can ask a single question.
I want to ask a question. You asked if anybody else had any more questions. I have a question.
Okay. All right, Sue. All right.
Okay. As said last week to all the councillors, this situation is quite an enormous one to read and to research. But during this week, again, things happen and you find out more and more information. And the information that I found out this week, which I'm going to ask a question about, is that there is a state planning policy. Planning for Basic Raw Materials Guidelines was out in July 2021 and it's still current as well. And the question that I have is, in Part 2, Guidance Requirements, Item 5, page 10, General Requirements, 4th paragraph. Extractive industry proposals or other development proposals that may affect extractive industries must demonstrate effective and appropriate community consultation. This includes consultation with neighbouring and affected properties, plus relevant local government leading up to submission of a proposal. Here we go, leading up to the submission of a proposal. Where has been the consultation with neighbouring and affected properties?
And this is with regards to the original DA back in...
All DAs. It's not just my DA. It's what we're talking about is the one also by Lewin Civil. Where has the consultation with neighbouring and affected properties been?
Mr Barber? Or do you...
So you're saying all?
So it's not about... It's a general question about any DA for extractive industry.
Through Mr Mayor, the regulations set out how a local government is to consult when a DA is submitted, and we follow that process. The policy provides guidance to both local government as an assessor and proponents who are putting in an application. But there's nothing that compels someone to do pre-consultation. At the moment, if an application came in and they hadn't done any pre-consultation, there's nothing that the local government can do about that. They can only advertise it as we would normally do in accordance with the regulation. A policy is not binding, it is guidance.
All right, so no pre-consultation, that's...
No, it doesn't solve it because industry must determine, must demonstrate. In law, must is the same word as shall. That's the imperial order, okay? So again, I am asking, where has the consultation been with Lewin Civil, the landowner, and the appropriate neighbours that we've heard ask questions tonight?
What I might do, Terry, I think we'll take that one on notice so we can get
Good.
back to you, if that's all right with officers. Thank you.
And the only other thing I want to ask that Councillor Kennedy asked about rehabilitation, how much it takes to rehabilitate a 2.5 hectare area. It was totally incorrectly answered. And if Mr Kennedy, Councillor Kennedy, would like to ask me, who has done rehabilitation, okay, at a later date, or any other councillor, please feel free, and please feel free to look at my property which has been rehabilitated.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Maybe you can send us some photos. Thank you. Before and after, though. Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to ask a question? If not, I will move on to presentations by parties with an interest. Firstly, I have Jeremy Warren, the adjoining neighbour to DA 230468, which is the group dwelling at 228 Hammond Road, Yallingup. Mr Warren, you have 5 minutes to present, and I will give you a warning at 1 minute before, if that's all right.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
And thank you to all councillors for the opportunity to present views on the above agenda item 11.3. We are property owners in Yallingup and have been there for some 35 years. My background is a professional engineer, the background in mining and resource industry, and as such I've got no or very little practical understanding of town planning issues. I have been actively involved in the Yallingup community for many years, including the Yallingup Residents Association and as a volunteer Coastal Fire Brigade member. In addition, I've participated in various discussions on community issues with the city officers, including the CEO, Director of Planning and Director of Infrastructure and others. We'd like to offer some comments on item 11.3 as individuals concerned on the precedent which developments such as this create for the entire town site, as well as the specific impacts on immediate neighbours. We are also aware of neighbours who have previously lodged submissions with the City of Busselton. We note the City Officer report, which councillors, I understand, will vote on. It's deemed in its current form that the proposed development does not comply with the relevant planning framework and therefore the application should be refused. We encourage all councillors to support the City Officer report and to refuse this development application. As a overall commentary, Yallingup has a unique amenity and character. The planning laws should enhance and protect long-term community amenity for the benefit of future generations. The current scheme includes a special character area policy, and all developments applications in Yallingup must comply with the outcomes arising from the Pennock decision, which restricts the discretionary decisions, in particular requirements that all developments must comply with the scheme, special character area requirements and Schedule 4 requirements. in particular height restrictions above natural ground level. And the second point, with the amenity of Yallingup is enhanced and characterised by the predominantly low density R10. The discretionary power decision available to city planners should reflect this amenity, in particular with discretionary decisions on higher density subdivided blocks. The use of such discretionary power must be considered with regard of compatibility of existing development. In particular, we respect a person's right and ability to develop in compliance with the scheme and any special area requirements. We understand that some of the options arising from item 13.3 motion is that the applicant may appeal to the State Administrative Tribunal, or the applicant may proceed with the previous approval given by the City of Busselton on the 10th of December 2021, that's DA 210644. There are, as we see it, specific issues arising from the officer report. One, the officer report application for the current development notes it is not be consistent with local planning scheme number 21 and the objectives of the zone within it, which it is located. And item 2, it makes a commentary on boundary setbacks. It, again, is considered not to meet the associated design principles, namely in having unacceptable impact on neighbouring properties in terms of bulk. The comments in the report reflect the consideration of Yallingup amenity. It is reasonable and logical to assume that similar comments would apply to the initial development approval given back in, I think, December 21. The officer report does not, the report officer recommendation does not address or resolve the outstanding issues of the over height component of the existing approval, that's DA 21064, or boundary setbacks. The initial approval must comply with the outcome of the Pennant case, in particular height requirements, and in the absence of any formal subdivision survey information and approval, in our opinion, the approval DA 210644 does not comply with Schedule 4 requirements. We request that councillors consider and review how this initial approval was issued contrary to the Schedule 4 special character height restrictions. And as a concluding comment, we suggest that the council consider a request to undertake a review of the initial approval, DA 210644, to ensure compliance with local planning scheme number 21.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Mariah Gurria, joining neighbour to item 11.4, which is the DA 170866601, the application for modification to the development of the approval for the industry extractive gravel. Mariah, you have 5 minutes.
Before you start my
Start
5
the timer,
minutes,
go on.
I've got a, where do I put it in?
Sure. We will just set that up.
Thank you. I did notice the last speaker went a little bit over, so I hope I'll get the same
See what I'm
allowance.
saying? I can't win, can I? Some of us want to go home. I'll
I
give you an
tried
extra...
to stick to 5, but I just hope if I go a little bit over,
It was
they'll-
25 seconds, that's
Yeah.
it. Otherwise, these lot lynch me.
Did you want another speaker and then I can come back once that's set up? Would
Yeah,
you-
all right,
yeah?
you have to
Okay.
do that? Yeah,
Yeah,
all right.
let's do that.
In that case, I'll call forward Mr. Fabrizio Gurria. You have 4 minutes and 30 seconds because your wife's already...
You have my time. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for giving me some time to speak. So my name is Fabrizio Gurria, and I live in Nutman Road, next to the gravel pit that we're discussing tonight. Operation run by Leuven Civil, and I understand this evening agenda is to evaluate Leuven's civil request or application to increase their truck movements to 70 per day. Yeah. So I would like to talk about risk assessment and management tonight. I don't mean to give anybody a lecture, of course, you know how to manage risk, but I'm a medical doctor specialised in psychiatry, working in the public system, so I manage risk on a daily basis, acute and chronic. The risk assessment process is extremely similar in every industry, as you can imagine, and the risk mantra is the same for health, education, finance, police force, you name it, and also the extraction industry. Essentially, the pillars of risk management and assessment are the same in every industry. The risk is identified, the risk is assessed and measured, risk mitigation measures are put in place, the risk is then monitored, and the effectiveness of the measures that are put in place is reviewed regularly. So these are just same in every business. In every industry, obviously, there are, like in my industry, there are policies, regulations, there are laws, and these need to be followed and monitored to run a safe business. If the risk management protocols are not followed, then obviously the risk increases dramatically, fluctuates, and this can result in accidents or worse, death. Now, as a community next door to this gravel operation, we have evidence that Lewin Civil has been running quite a high-risk operation quite often, and it's been placing the community at risk. I understand that a lot of you earlier on have commented that there are mitigation strategies in place and you think they've been followed and monitored properly by the City of Busselton. But what we experience in the community is very different. We see and witness that they continue to, their trucks continue to be seen during the hour that the school bus operates. Now, I will not annoy you with that issue because you know very well what I'm talking about. They continue to operate on roads that have been declared by the City of Busselton as off limits to them. For example, Evans Road. This week, I do that road every morning to go to the hospital for work. And so I've seen them on Monday, Tuesday, and this morning on Evans Road, waiting for the turn to go in. I believe they continue to be non-compliant to their noise and dust mitigation strategies in place on their DA. And I think this company cut corners consistently. As community members, we have consistently provided evidence to the various authorities, but also to the City of Busselton, that this company does not comply often to what is stipulated on their DA. My family and other community members have endured stress and risk for 2.5 years now. The risk of a road traffic accident, I believe, is high. I personally nearly got taken out by a speeding truck on Payne Road when the road goes over a one-way bridge, and luckily only my car was damaged and the truck driver didn't even stop. So also when they crush the gravel, you can see a dust bowl around. We have sent a picture this morning of this morning operation, and there is a lot of dust. So I don't know how it can be stated that the dust mitigation strategy is in place and they are complying with that.
If you can start to wrap up.
Beg your pardon?
If you can start to wrap up, thank you.
Sure,
give you another 25 seconds.
So the dust has affected everybody, particularly the Bussell family, as we know, and also the Witcher winery crops. And we also often can't use our outdoor amenities, particularly in summer, because of the dust. Most of you may know that silica dust is extremely fine and invisible to the human eye, and causes serious respiratory illness called silicosis. It's a very serious illness and can cause cancer, like just as bad as asbestosis. We don't know really what the distance is, what the safe distance is. There is not much robust research about it.
I will ask you to wrap up now, sorry.
It is a major concern that actually the City of Busselton has not enforced the rehabilitation as per their DA, their land rehabilitation. And I really do not understand why we want to reward this company with 70 trucks a day after what they're not able to comply to their DA. And I'm very much against this, and this will further increase the risk in the community. And then finally, approving 70 trucks per day will grossly exceed their maximum gravel extraction that is stated on their DA. Okay. Easy to do a calculation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next we have Ms Mariah Goria.
I've got my own timer.
Thank you.
And I'll start it once it's ready to go.
Just wait till it's done.
Is it up there? Okay. You happy to start now? Okay. So my name is Mariah. You all know where I'm from. I just wanted to point out the truck movements. So they asked originally for 7 truck movements, and they've stated on the original DA that that was 19 cubic metres. That's up there on the screen for you to see. The calculation's also up there. What 7 truck movements would be over 5 years would be 172,000 cubic metres. But they got 50 trucks, so 25 truck movements over 5 years is 617,000 cubic metres. But they've only done that for 2 years, so they're already sitting at about 247,000 cubic metres. But apparently there's still 35 cubic metres left, that's fine, but 35 trucks with 19 cubic metres for 5 days a week works out to 3,325 cubic metres per week. So that means they only really have 11 weeks left to extract that with 70 trucks. Let's not forget that they have already been operating over 50 trucks a day, and with RAVs this whole entire time. How do I go to the next slide? This is what it looks like at the beginning. That red area is the first area where they illegally removed trees. Actually, they didn't have a clearing permit when they got their DA anyway, but then they continued to go outside of the area. That red area is outside of area. Then they continued on, that's January 2023. I'm not sure how the city didn't notice it, but anyway. That's April 2023, so just extracting out of area. And that's January 2024. That's an additional area down there in the south, both sections out of area. And you can clearly see that they were extracting in January 2024 when I have made several complaints about them being out of area. So I don't know why you don't have enough evidence to prosecute. And that's March this year, and you can see they're currently operating on 13 hectares, but they're not actually allowed to be doing all of that. You can see the out of area. Those GPS locations is from their own documentation sent to the federal government. So, and then here is from this weekend, a drone image. That's the area that's out of area this weekend, as you can see. That's still out of area. It's been out of area since the beginning. That's the whole pit. None of it's been rehabilitated. So I just wanted to point out that, you know, when did they actually do this seeding of grass? Because everything else around the place is green except for the sand that they've put down, and they're still out of area in that section. And in here, they're in the bush, extracting in the bush, which is also out of area. And then here it is, as you can see, and there's some building waste. So I don't know why the city does not have enough evidence, because I keep finding evidence all the time. So I'm not sure what the problem is, but I'd like to see that if you're going to approve extra truck movements, that there actually is some real compliance management being taken in place, because we're sick and tired of them breaking the rules over and over again, and the city always says, oh, sorry, we don't have enough evidence. Oh, look, less than 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mariah, for that presentation, and maybe I'd be interested if you would send me that PowerPoint presentation, or if I can keep on that and then... Sure. Probably legal reasons. But thank you. Okay, next I have... so we've also got Terry Ealing in attendance this evening to speak on item 11.4. While Mr Ealing is not an adjoining neighbour to the particular development, I'm using my discretion to permit Mr Ealing to present to Council this evening on the basis that he is duly representing those that have significant direct interest in the item.
I'll try to keep...
Try to not set
I'll try to
precedent.
keep my voice down so I don't scare the hell out of everybody. But
Thank you.
anyway.
You have 5 minutes, Mr Ealing.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Now, development applications may be approved up for 5 years, and then subject to application for another 5 years, for a total of 10 years, yet tonight we, the opposition, are only given 5 minutes to oppose approval, which seemingly is highly unfair. In our experience, we have reported to the Planning Department the unsuitability of approving certain development applications for raw basic material made on the performance of the holders of the licence, which has been completely ignored. Residents near these extractions must endure the risk to their health, unbearable noise, dust, increase in large truck traffic, risks to school buses and their occupants, which are our children. All these matters have been reported. So do you all believe that these extractive industry operators will avoid the degradation to our bitumen roads or operate at safe speeds with roadworthy vehicles? The promise of rehabilitation that needs to occur soon when the earth is warm. Okay, I'm just actually answering your question, Mr Kennedy, Councillor Kensley. Warm and the rain is abundant. Now, also too, it all depends on what kind of rehabilitation they're going to do. Sometimes when you get trees from forest industry, they're kept in a refrigerated factory, and you only have a certain amount of time to actually collect them, pay for them, and then actually plant them. Okay, well, I don't know if you all knew this. There's different stipulations for different kinds of rehabilitation, of which we don't really know what is going to be used. So we need to really know that to make sure that compliance is correct. So therefore, in the winter months, you can only really rehabilitate. If it's gone past to the summer, if you allow the extension of them operating, okay, it's too late. It's far too late. The plants will die in all kinds of plants. It doesn't matter if you've got spray on, paper mache with seeds in it, all the rest of it. Nothing will survive. And nothing would have survived our summer this year, which has the largest, highest recorded loss of rainfall ever in the history of Busselton. So there you go. So answering your question of how long it takes to rehabilitate 2.4 hectares, because these things are divided into certain areas over 13.2 hectares or something like that. Okay, it's really sort of a lot longer than you could actually ever imagine. And people tend to stay away from answering those questions. Okay, but if we had further consultation, of course, those kinds of questions and all the questions of the councillors would be brought up to speed by people who actually operate and do this. So I have rehabilitated the back of our property, which was a sand pit operated by an operator known to the council, okay, who refused in the end to come back and do this. And I planted my wife and I planted over 4,000 to 5,000 trees, of which we have record of. Now, it's not a 5-minute sort of, type of job. So I do ask that everybody takes the time and start looking at this seriously. And I would personally like to see this matter adjourned and no decision be made upon it until proper consultation has been made, which I feel hasn't happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate that. There are no further deputations. Oops, sorry. I'll now move on to item 9, adoption by exception. Resolution, we've had a few changes here, so I'll probably read off of this. So the committee recommendations for items, those ones? Yeah, so items 10.1, 10.2, 11.3, 12.1 and 15.1. Do I have a mover for that motion? Moved Councillor Love, seconded Councillor Kennedy. Is there any opposition? If there being no opposition, I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried 9.
I just had a question. There was an attempt to pull something out of the adoption by exception, I think, from Councillor Love. She was talking about doing that.
We've done.
I have actually sent through an email saying that I was no longer going to foreshadow an alternative, just given some information that I received from Mr. Noddle.
So, through the chair, that item 11.1 was pulled out of the en bloc in the agenda briefing before this meeting. So you don't see it before you in the en bloc recommendation. It will be dealt with as a separate item.
So why was it pulled out?
So as Councillor Love said, she had intended to foreshadow an alternative, and that's her decision whether she does that when that item is considered.
And what does the standing order say about pulling something out at such a late stage?
So an item can be pulled out of en bloc at any stage, Councillor McNish, but it will not be considered under the pulled items process. The officer recommendation will be considered first.
Are you happy with that?
For the time being, I want the meeting to move on.
Thank you. Therefore, I'll put the motion, sorry, so I still have the same mover and seconder. Which you got, did you? Yes, thank you. All those, any opposition? If there, more, okay. So, mover, do you wish to speak to?
I'll reserve my right of reply.
Yeah, you'll reserve it, you will evoke your, okay. Seconder, would you like to speak to the motion? Yeah.
Yeah, I reserve my right.
Thank you very much. Speaker against?
No, I indicated I wasn't going to speak. I'm just going to vote against because it's obvious.
The process. So.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Councillor Love hasn't spoken.
She said she doesn't want to speak. She's revoked. She put the motion, revoked. She revoked her right. Therefore, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? 8-4. Those in opposition? 1. 1 against. Thank you. Carried 8-1. Item 10.3 is the Finance Committee, 1st of May 2024, adoption of the schedule and fees charges for 2024. Requires an absolute majority. Foreshadowed by, alternative by Councillor Love. This hasn't been pulled, has it? So. All right. Okay, all right. Okay, so do I have a mover for the committee recommendation? Moved Councillor Cox, seconded Councillor Kennedy. Is there any opposition? There is opposition. Councillor Love. Therefore, Councillor Cox, will you put the motion? Speak to your motion.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't need to speak to this motion. I'll just move it as written.
Thank you. Councillor Kennedy, do you wish to speak?
I reserve my right.
Thank you. Speaker against?
I will be objecting the committee's recommendation as I will be foreshadowing an alternative, and that alternative will just be rounding up and down some of the bond fees and also including the changes made towards the meal up fees, fees and charges that had been originally missed through with the first committee recommendation. And that's why I urge all councillors to vote in opposition for this item.
Sorry, can we just see what exactly where the item you mentioned with the meal up fees? I'm sure everyone in the gallery can read it, because I can't. Have to. Adopted fees.
Could I ask a question, please, of Councillor Love?
May I clarify a question, Councillor Wright?
So is this the same as your initial intent, and that is that they're...
My initial intent was with, in regards to rounding up the bond fees. Yeah. However, when I had put through this amendment to Director Pearson, it came to her attention that the meal up fees had been missed with allocating their percentage increase via CPI. So I was happy to incorporate that in my amendments.
Okay, so should this motion not be voted through, then we would go to the alternative of Councillor Love's, which is regarding to the small changes with the fees to meal up being CPI that were missed out. Do I have a speaker for? Speaker against? Therefore, I put, oh, sorry. Seconder. Right of reply. Seconder's reserve right, sorry. Do you wish to speak?
No.
No. Councillor Cox, do you wish to, your right of reply?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay. If not, I therefore put the motion forward. All those in favour? All those against? Carried. Lost 9-0. Lost 9-0. Therefore, Councillor Love, would you like to put forward your alternative recommendation?
I'll put forward the alternative recommendation to the committee recommendation, and it is just updating the bond fees and charges with rounding applied to make it easier for our customers organising or coordinating events within our city.
Sure.
Oh.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Cox. Councillor, is there any opposition? If there is no opposition, I put the motion forward. All those in favour? Motion is carried 9-0. Congratulations, Councillor Love. Item 10.4. The Finance Committee 1st of May 2024, the Leisure Centre Capital Funds. Do I have a mover? Moved, Councillor Cox. Oh, sorry. So we're looking at item 10.4, is that correct? So do I have a mover for this motion? Moved, Councillor Kennedy. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Craig. Is there any opposition? Being no opposition, I put the motion. All those in favour? The motion is carried 9-0, absolute majority. Item 11.1, future of the GLC. The officer recommendation in front of you. Do I have a mover for this? Moved Councillor McNeish. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kennedy. Is there any opposition? Being there no opposition, I put the motion. All those in favour? It's carried 9-0. Thank you. Move on to item 11.2, 24-25 bushfire risk reduction notice. Pulled from en bloc by Councillor Cox. The recommendation in front of you is that from the officers to endorse the adoption and support the plan consultation. Do I have a mover? I'll move the motion. Oh, sorry, Councillor Richards. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Beecroft. Is there any opposition? Councillor Cox. Therefore, Councillor Richards, would you like to?
I'll revoke my right, thank you.
Thank you. Seconder?
I'll reserve my right to speak.
Thank you very much. Speaker against?
I would just like to foreshadow a small amendment to the bushfire risk reduction notice, changing to do with the managed fuel area, which I will speak to should the officer recommendation not be successful.
Sorry, Councillor. Yeah, sorry, no, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, is there any? We've moved the motion. Sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Cox, to clarify, you're moving that amendment to the officer recommendation, correct?
She's forced.
Yes.
We've had a mover.
Yeah, it's an amendment.
Yes, moving the amendment.
So you need a seconder for that.
Oh, okay, and then we'll just go that way. Sorry, so do I have a seconder for the amendment? Councillor Love? Okay, is there any opposition to the amendment? If not, I now include that amendment as a substantive motion. So I'll put the amendment to vote. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. We now have the substantive motion put in front of us. Do I have speaker for? Speaker against? If not, I put the motion in front of you. Sorry, yes, sorry. The seconder, do you wish to speak to this motion? You're right. Your reserve right. Mr. Councillor Beecroft, do you wish to speak to it?
No, I reserve the right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right of reply, Councillor Richards.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Richards. Therefore, I now put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried 9-0, absolute majority. Thank you. Item 13.3, the lease of the proposed Marine Discovery Building. That's what I've got in front of me. We've done 11.4 on block. No. Sure. 13.3, the lease of the proposed Marine Discovery Building. We do have a foreshadowed alternative, but as it was pulled at last, officer recommendation will go first. In front of you, we'll be providing principal support to enter into a lease with the Busselton Jetty for the construction. As seen, do I have a mover for this motion? Moved Councillor Richards. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McNeish. Do I have any opposition? Councillor Love. I'm just going to write this down so I don't get out of control. Councillor Richards, do you wish to?
Yes, I
Move your
will speak
motion.
to the motion. In the context that I understand Councillor Love's alternative, being that the concern is that there are a number of offerings for food and beverage and function rooms on the foreshore. And I do notice in a letter from the shelter received today, sorry if I can just find it for 1 second. Did it come from Director Palmer? It came from Director Palmer. Just trying to find it. Apologies. Sorry, bear with me. There we go. Sorry, I've got it here. That the opposition by Shelter states in their letter regarding the Alfresco Kiosk Cafe, we believe the foreshore already boasts a diverse range of takeaway and grab-and-go options. Introducing a new kiosk cafe may risk saturating the market and detracting from existing businesses without offering substantial added value. Similarly, we question the necessity of a private function space within the context of a marine discovery centre, particularly when it is located so close to 4 existing hospitality businesses, the Goose, formerly the Equinox, which is KIST now, the Esplanade and Shelter Brewing Company, along with the Foreshores accommodation provider Hilton Garden Inn, all of which provide similar offerings within their venues, equipped for hosting events and functions catering to different sizes and occasions. So that to me says that those places that have those venues value them and that they add to their economic value. So because all those other places have them, why should we be excluding the Marine Discovery Centre when it's a part of their business case and they've received federal and state funding? And the comment that Shelter made...
Point of order.
Please sit down, Councillor Richards.
Relevance, as I haven't foreshadowed an alternative and Councillor Richards is talking to a foreshadowed alternative that has not been foreshadowed as of yet.
Fair call, thank you. I acknowledge that. Talking to the officer recommendation, I think the offering from this development with the Marine Discovery Centre will be a valuable addition to the foreshore and something that the community will engage with, as well as tourists. So that's... Have I brought that back in?
Thank you, Councillor Richards.
Thank you.
Well spoken to. Councillor McNeish, do you wish to?
Just that if the state and federal government approve the funding and the authorisation to commence the project as defined with those certain features we all know about on the ground floor and the top floor, then I think it's probably okay for the City of Busselton to do the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McNeish. Speaker against, Councillor Love.
I will just highlight that this is subject to state and federal government approval. It hasn't already been approved. But I will be foreshadowing an alternative just in regards to their concept design. I do not believe that it should include the proposed ground floor cafe and 3rd-storey bar. I will speak to that alternative if this motion fails.
Speaker 4. Councillor Ryan.
Having been involved with the BJI for many years now, I think it's the officer's recommendation is perfect in that we have to remember that the city is not just the only group involved in this now, and the project control group has been consulted on a number of occasions, and this offering is part of what they're agreeing to. I think to take out this component is bordering on anti-competitive behaviour. It is not our role to decide whether something can go ahead here or not in terms of what our community and our visitors alike want to go for a coffee or whatever their offering is. And I believe it's more to do with jetty and marine and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, if you've got a child who is visiting the Marine Discovery Centre and wants a drink of water and mums and dads want a cup of coffee, I think to discount a facility that wants to add these facilities is I don't know, not quite correct. But also you have to remember that we've allowed the jetty to do events and functions. They need to have somewhere to do that food offering for those events. So I commend this recommendation to you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Do I have a speaker against? Speaker for? I will just raise that, look, I will speak for this motion, but I would like to also, I will be requesting legal advice from the CEO because of the way that the contracts are set up with the BGI, that we receive 25% of their profits. I need to be mindful that we are not, in doing so, competing with the local businesses. So I understand in principle that we are just looking at the lease here. Sorry? No, so on the lease, but that's all I'm going to be doing. I will vote this way, but I will be asking for legal advice that to make sure that we are not being anti-competitive. Do you have a question, Councillor?
Yes,
Yep.
a point of clarification. The 25% that is received from BJI isn't received by the city. It goes into the jetty maintenance fund.
Which, yeah, and I 100% agree with that, but also it's the pub test. Where did the money come from and where does it go? And if it comes out of, if the ratepayers pay less, we're still making potential profit. I purely want to check that we are not seeing as what we talked about this afternoon. Councillor Ryan?
It's I could be wrong, but retail offerings don't constitute part of that jetty maintenance component.
Sorry, I will, I know we're in debate, but I mean, this advice can be taken anyway afterwards and council, yeah, point of clarification. Do you wish to clarify that, Ms Palmer?
It's 25% of gross revenue from the licence arrangement with BJI, and the retail component, which is the goods that they sell from the current interpretation centre, is dealt with differently. Yeah.
So as clarification, if, let's say they made 100,000 profit in this bar upstairs, would the city receive 25,000 of that?
The terms that have been offered by BJI so far, also given that this is just in principle support to enter into a lease agreement, so we haven't entered into any kind of negotiation around this, is that the two retail elements, being the Sky Bar on the top floor and the kiosk cafe on the ground floor, will be treated differently, and they would be under a commercial type rental arrangement, which they have estimated would be 25,000 per annum each element.
But the question I'm asking is, if any profits are made from that bar, do we get a percentage?
Yes, so under those conditions,
Yep.
the 25,000 of each of those elements would go straight into the jetty maintenance reserve.
Okay, that's from the lease, and do we get any of the profits from the bar?
No.
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 Okay.
Just the rental income from the lease.
Okay, no, that's fine. I'm just seeking the right transparency, legal advice. Thank you. Okay, is there a speaker against? Speaker for? You've spoken, a seconder. So, Councillor Richards, your right to reply to anything that was said during debate.
No, I think it's been covered off, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, given that, I will put the motion, the officer recommendation that's in front of you. All those in favour? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those against? 3. The motion is carried 6-3. Item. We now move on to items for debate. We have an alternative motion for item 11.4, the application of the modification to development of the approval of the industry extractive gravel from Councillor Ryan as per clause 10.18(6) of this Busselton Standing Orders Local Law 2018. The alternative recommendation will be considered first. Councillor Lynch is leaving the room. Councillor Ryan, would you like to move your alternative to the item 11.4?
I would, with one slight amendment, if I may, and that's to clause 7.3, with 2 changing to 1 week.
So this is a proposed alternative, so if she's got a seconder for that and they're comfortable with the one,
Yeah.
you'll be fine.
Okay. Do I have a seconder that's comfortable to move that? Councillor Richards. Do I have any opposition? I have Councillor Love. Councillor Ryan, would you like to put your motion? Speak to your motion.
I would. As per my reasons in front of you, councillors, this applicant has demonstrated on many occasions his flouting of the conditions. I don't believe their past behaviour to be that of a good corporate citizen, and councillors have received, I would think, the most complaints on this particular site from surrounding landholders of any matter we have been involved with on a consistent and long-standing timeframe, including the 40 submissions to this extended DA, of which the majority was against. Some complaints I personally have only just been made privy to in the last couple of days. The complaints so far include commencing without a permit, bus complaints in and out of regulation hours, near misses and overtaking of other vehicles, main roads removing B-doubles through complaints, gravel extraction outside area, dust, noise, going over agreed truck movements, using unapproved roads, illegal clearing, and I'm sure there's many more. To say councillors have felt helpless in the past is probably not articulating our frustration. A new condition 3, which says, if at any time any of the conditions have not been complied with, all extraction activities, including haulage, must cease until such time as the breach has been rectified to the satisfaction of the city in writing. This is a mechanism which was not previously stipulated. In relation to the new clause 1, the applicant has requested a higher truck movement, which was originally that he get 100 movements to complete the removal of gravel on site. I propose that the amount which has already been taken should render the job complete by Christmas. This will only see another 6 to 7 months, not the 2026 end date, which was originally given, because of the disruption to neighbours, and the rehabilitation should be treated now as impending, especially with the winter rains to assist. It should also reduce the burden on staff having to police this particular job in future. This completion date is, as I see it, allowing 70 truck movements down from the requested 100, making it a concession for a concession. Whilst I know many will not agree, and my gut instincts are to deny the extension, but that would mean probably the appeal process. At some point, the surrounding landholders, who are a mix of tourism and residential, who have been long suffering in this extraction process, must be entitled to some peace and quiet and an amenity in what is a rural area. And many who initially were in support of this DA, but due to the above indiscretions, have simply become tired and indeed angry. The clauses have been amended to reflect that we will no longer tolerate this type of behaviour and show the community we are listening to their concerns. Councillors, how many more chances do we give this operator before we say enough is enough? Officers have stated that they support these changes and additional conditions as a means to make the conditions clearer and more enforceable for both the applicant and the community. Councillors, I urge you to support this alternate recommendation, which I commend to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Richards, do you wish?
I'll reserve my right, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Love, would you like to speak against the motion?
I will just be speaking against Councillor Ryan's alternative, as I'll be foreshadowing yet again another alternative. My alternative will have the original clause of point 1, and I agree with all of Councillor Ryan's clauses that she has added to her alternative. However, I would be removing 4.12D, school bus times on the signage, just as every semester that the school bus times change, you would have to change the signage, which just does not seem very feasible. You'd have to change the sign each semester. And 7.5, I would not be allowing 70 truck movements. I'll be allowing just the 50 truck movements, as I agree with Councillor Ryan that we have had a number of complaints about this, and I am aware that the proponents could take us to an appeal process if they didn't agree with these conditions. However, I do not believe in rewarding them for their bad behaviour.
Councillor Ryan, would you be... You're happy with those? Yeah, so we'll continue on this way. Sure. Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a speaker for? Councillor Candy?
Yeah, can I foreshadow? Is that then, or can I amend, maybe simpler,
You can.
to amend this?
You can ask.
Motion?
Yeah.
If you'd.
Sorry, Councillor.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, I'm proposing to amend it that we change the development to operate until May 25. The reasons being for that, should I do the amendments first? I'll do the amendments first. So change it to May 25. Change the truck movements to 50.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Candy, that would probably be an alternative.
Okay.
As it changes the intention quite considerably.
Yeah.
So, look, I think if you want to speak against the motion, or you're speaking for it, but...
I just wanted to get in there before someone else threw in another foreshadow.
It's great working on the fly, but thank you. So you're speaking for the motion.
Okay. So to put in a foreshadow, it'd be best to...
Be an alternative.
Be an alternative. Shall I sit down and wait till I speak against for us?
You can't speak against this now, you're speaking for this, and if this were not to get through, then Councillor Love's alternative motion would go next, and then should hers not get through, then yours would go next.
All right, so there we go. Okay, so I will not speak for it.
Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Do I have a speaker against?
I just have a question.
Certainly, Councillor McNeish. Who do you
clarify,
wish? The question through the chair.
Through the chair to Director Barber. Is there anything to his knowledge at this point in what's being proposed by Councillor Ryan that is any form of fatal flaw, would expose the city to reasonably based appeal, something that might be jumped upon? I just want to make sure that we send a very, very clear message to this operator, but whatever that message is, that it can't be picked apart or we can lose everything on a technicality.
So if I may, Mr. Director Barber, I think the question we're saying is that we've written all these conditions out, we've made some changes. I'm going to ask one question, could it be appealed anyway? Could they go to the SAT? And secondly, are any of these conditions basically unpoliceable or will just cause the local people to be quite upset by what we've just put forward? Not very technical, sorry about that.
Through this process, the council has the ability to add or change conditions that exist on the original approval. So it effectively becomes a new approval. So in that sense, there's nothing of concern in terms of can you add or take away. Obviously, the applicant can appeal anything, and they need to weigh up their own legal ability to challenge some of these clauses. As per the officer comment, the only, I guess, question is around the time frame and whether it is reasonable for them to extract what they need to extract and rehabilitate within that time frame of December 24. But as I said, I haven't had those discussions with the applicant, therefore I don't know whether they agree with that or not, and then I can't predict whether they will appeal it or not.
Yeah. So I will clarify then that any revegetation can only happen while that DA is there, and if they didn't finish it, what would happen? We would extend for them to complete the rehabilitation?
So if the development approval expired and they hadn't met a condition such as rehabilitation, then the city has the option of potentially prosecuting, depending if the legal advice at that time suggests that that is the appropriate course of action and the cost of that is not offset by an offer by an applicant to do the rehabilitation a couple of months later. It's hard to predict.
Yeah, I know.
Every time there is
Just be mindful of the decision.
Every time there is a breach or a legal issue, we would seek legal advice to determine the most appropriate course of action that we believe is the most successful outcome for the city.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McNeish, do you wish to speak against? You were clarifying a question, that was all.
Well, my question still remains then, pursuant to Director Barber's answer, is it reasonable for the operator to extract and rehabilitate within the time frames we're specifying? Because if it's not reasonable, then could that cause the entirety of the conditions we're trying to apply here to be thrown out?
I don't know how I can answer that because I don't know. I'm not an extractive industry operator. They have an existing approval for a particular time frame and they haven't sought to amend that time frame. We are now amending it. We haven't discussed that with them, so I don't know if it's reasonable or not.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a speaker against?
I have a question, if I may. I'm sorry.
Certainly.
This operator seems to be flouting.
Just be clear. We need to be cautious in our wording.
Okay.
Yep.
They seem to have a disregard for, they seem to be ignoring the infringements.
What's the question? Sorry, Mr. Councillor Beecroft.
Okay, I'm trying to get to my question. So if they're not following the guidelines of their approval, did I hear correctly that we can revoke their approval? No.
No, it's the same procedure.
No, there's no ability under the Act to revoke a planning approval.
Thank you. Do I have a speaker against? Speaker for? I'm going to speak against. Don't bite me. Don't bite me. The only thing I'm going to say is agreeance, and probably with what Councillor Kennedy's saying, that if, and as Mr. Ealing brought up, that they would need to do the rehabilitation at a certain time period, and now I'm concerned, sorry, we can't let you speak, but I'm listening to you that says the
I'm
rehabilitation.
walking out because the landowner is responsible and you've got it all wrong again.
So, yeah, so, all right. Well, I was just concerned about the dates, but I guess this will all come out. So, that's all I'm going to say. Is there a speaker for? Speaker against? If not, Councillor Richards, you spoke. You did speak.
No,
Or
I
did
reserved
you
my
reserved?
right.
Do you wish to
Yes, I
speak?
do.
Certainly.
Yes, thank you. We as a council must ensure that we do everything possible within the confines of the law to ensure compliance. As we've seen, when non-compliance occurs, when there is no penalty or accountability, continued non-compliance occurs. So we must acknowledge and indeed advocate to state government policymakers that our district is unique in terms of raw material extraction. In terms of extractive industries, we are not like other parts of WA in terms of the wheat belt, Pilbara and Gascoyne. We have the raw materials here. And we, as the community does, understand the importance of raw material extraction. If we want to drive on roads, we've got to be able to build them. If we want to build houses, we've got to be able to get the sand. But the extraction industry in this district must coexist with rural residential, tourism and agriculture, including our incredibly important viticulture industry. So we must be doing what we can. Our legal and planning capabilities may be limited. However, we must exercise all of our available resources to at least ensure compliance, because we all have to coexist together with these different industries. So we've got the raw materials here and it's valuable, but we've also got tourism and people living here and communities and so many other considerations that perhaps don't apply in a gravel pit in the wheat belt where they don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. We do have to acknowledge that we are different here and we need to ensure compliance, if nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Richards. Councillor Ryan, your right of reply.
Thank you. Councillor Love, I'll address your rewarding comment first. If you keep it at 50, you are literally extending it to 2026, is that what 2026? Which gives these people more pain. What I'm saying is, make it 70. They asked for 100. Staff put it down to 70 and said, yep, okay. I was the one that said, well, if you move it to the date 31st of December, 35,000 tonnes is not a lot to finish off the job. Then they can go. And the onus is on the landowner to make sure the site is rehabilitated. So if the applicant does what he does and he's gone, then we use the bonds and we also have the ability to ensure that the landowner rehabilitates the site to our satisfaction. I think I've addressed all the issues. But once again, I want to reiterate that this new clause 3, it has never been there before, and that it says, if at any time any of the conditions have not been complied with, all extraction activities, including haulage, must cease until such time as the breach has been rectified to the satisfaction of the city in writing. We have to ensure that we're not putting up with the cowboy activities anymore. I know I've had enough. I'm sure these people have had enough. I think this is a good opportunity to support a good alternate recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Therefore, I put forward Councillor Ryan's alternative recommendation as seen in front of you. All those in favour? All those against? Carried 8-1. Okay, now we move on to 13.1. Yep. So we move on to item 13.1, which is the alternative put forward by Councillor McNeish, with the item 4 included. Councillors, if I may. So again, I'll say item 13.1 pulled by Councillor McNeish, which is the alternative recommendation to endorse the following single-year funding allocations. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor McNeish. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Kennedy. Do I have any opposition? Being no opposition, I put the motion forward. All those in favour? Motion is carried 9-0. Absolute majority if it was needed. Thank you. Now move on to item 13.2. Goodbye, Peters. Item 13.2, which is the Busselton Dunsborough funding. This has been pulled by Councillor McNeish with these following changes. The measurable, including that. Are there any others? Just for the gallery on the screen. Do I have a mover for the motion? Moved Councillor McNeish. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Richards. Is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, I put the motion forward. All those in favour? The motion is carried 9-0. Thank you. Item 16.1. The review of the dog management control with Councillor Anne Ryan. Putting forward the motion as seen in front of you that the council requests the CEO to. Do I have a mover for the motion? Moved Councillor Ryan. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Richards. Is there any opposition? Seeing there's no opposition, I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried 9-0.
I'm going to start singing. Oh, not the
Ladies and gentlemen, councillors, everyone, the next ordinary council meeting will be held on Wednesday, the 19th of June 2024. I now declare the meeting closed at 7:49, and thank you everyone for your attendance.